Cheating is at an all-time high in pro pickleball, and it's only going to continue to get worse if we don't do anything about it. So cheating is a problem that we just can't ignore and hope that it goes away. So I'm constantly hearing the same things from the pro tours. We want the sport to look good on television. We want the sports betting to come to pickleball. But can either of these things realistically happen until we curtail cheating? In my opinion, until we have solid video replay on every single court, we really can't prevent cheating. But I think there's some low-hanging fruit that we can implement to deter it. So this thread isn't a call out of any specific player or players, but rather an overall assessment and my thoughts. So I'm using footage from Sorry Not Sorry Pickleball podcast, which shows the worst hooks of the week. I'm pretty sure just about every player, myself included, has been on it at some point or another.
Oh man, Zane, come on. It's like in so clearly. It's not even going sideways. It's going down the line too.
But definitely there are some that are on it. They might be weekly occurrences on there. Every player is going to make mistakes now and then, but mistakes are honestly a bad excuse. And if it's really a mistake, you should make mistakes in both directions. You should make mistakes cheating yourself just as much, if not more, than cheating your opponents.
I won't involve Megan Dazan in this because she's made up for it in other areas. But look at that. I mean, that is so clearly on the line, as in as it gets. And I don't think Megan could see it that clearly. Tyson's definitely looking way at it. Tyson McGuffin with the hook on C.
And honestly, I'm not even worried about the mistakes. I'm worried about the habitual cheaters, the people that you know aren't going to give you the benefit of the doubt at the end of a match. I think that we can take some steps to make sure that bad line calls don't impact matches, and at the end of the day, this is our livelihood. So first and foremost, we got to discuss line judges.
Do something. They shook hands on it, so they made a bet. That is in the blue. That is as clear-cut in the blue as you can get. Look at that.
Employing line judges just is not a realistic answer. Yes, they would be impartial, of course, but right now we don't have enough referees, and they're not paid enough to make it a full-time job. I also don't think that many of the referees that we do have are qualified enough to make impactful line calls late in matches. I've played plenty of reffed matches, and it never leaves anybody satisfied. If you ask pro pickleball players if they want to have their matches refereed where the line judge actually is in charge of making the calls, I would guess that at least 90% of them would oppose the idea. So, public shaming. Originally, I thought that public shaming would be a strong enough deterrent to prevent cheating. I mentioned on the Pickle Pod months ago that the PPA should publish a worst calls of the week segment. Well, Chris Cali was listening and he's been doing it ever since, but it hasn't stopped players from making bad calls. In fact, honestly, it didn't seem to make a dent in the problem whatsoever, but it sure is entertaining to watch each week. But anyways, this brings us to the main problem, the incentive structure. Currently, there is no repercussion for cheating other than the public shaming. If a player is interested in winning above all else, they should simply call every single rally-ending shot out, whether it's close to the line or whether it's in the middle of the court. There is no on-court repercussion for cheating. None. So I think we need to implement a point penalty system. Tennis faced a similar problem and implemented a point penalty system. The first bad call results in a warning, the second in a point penalty, the third in a game penalty, and the fourth in a match penalty. This seems like it can be easily applied to pickleball to create in-match penalties for cheating. I also think we need post-match review. As we know, referees are watching the kitchen and not the ball. I'd guess that calls are overturned less than 10% of the time. So what happens if somebody makes an egregiously bad call that just goes unnoticed? Players should be able to submit calls for video review after a match. And obviously this won't change the outcome of the match, but it can lead to penalties for the offender and serve as another deterrent. I think that these penalties also need to escalate over time. Bad calls should roll over from match to match, event to event, and tournament to tournament. If I'm given a warning and a point penalty in my very first match, if I make a bad call in my second match, I shouldn't just get to start from scratch. I should be given a game penalty immediately. I think we could expand this from day to day and possibly even tournament to tournament. Next is going to be controversial. I think that teams need to take mutual ownership over line calls. And what I mean by that is that both players on the team should be responsible for a call. If one player makes a bad call, the other shouldn't be able to use the excuse of, I didn't see it. They have to stand by their partner's call or overrule their call. And there are plenty of times where I legitimately don't see a call that my partner makes. Right now, if I'm a rational player that's sole objective is to win, I should never overrule my partner. It's awkward to overrule your partner. But what if I already have 2 bad calls under my belt from mixed day and my partner makes a questionable call? Then I would need to overrule them or risk a penalty. Also, I wouldn't want to mark on my record for my partner's bad calls. I also think that we need a running tally of bad calls. Once a player has reached some threshold of bad calls, they should be placed on a probation by the league, with subsequent bad calls being reviewed on a case-by-case basis by the commissioner's team. After review, each hook, I think, should result in a fine, or if it's egregious and if there's enough of them, I think they need to be suspended. So, as you can probably tell, this is only the beginning, and there are a bunch of administrative details that would need to be worked through, but at the end of the day, I think that we need to put cheating deterrence policies in place. We're not going to be taken seriously if we don't. So whether you disagree or agree, please let me know what you think. And if you have constructive feedback for this one, it's an open discussion. I want to know what you have to say about this. Please leave me a comment. This isn't just some engagement thing to get more comments. I genuinely want to know how we can improve this and how we can stop cheating at the pro level.